Hello and welcome along to Team Talk live on KMTV. I'm Joe Caution. On tonight's programme, as always, we'll have a roundup of the weekend's football with Kent clubs in League and FA Cup action. We'll also be chatting hockey with Holcombe defender Glen Ayres with their season well underway. But first, here's tonight's lineup. No Kinnear in here. Dover boss Chris Kinnear departs, leaving Kent's dugouts looking very different during the weekend's football.
Really difficult circumstances, really tough week, and obviously I didn't want it to end this way.
Bonkers for conkers. We're throwing it back to give you some top tips so you can conquer the playground pastime this autumn.
Right, well, you want one that's reasonably large, but not too large. The larger it is, the weaker the shell, the more you've got to hit, the well your opponent's got to hit. So you want one of reasonably good size, and it's got to be spherical.
And rolling around in Rochester, we visit the Apex Predators to take a look at roller derby.
It sounds cheesy, but it has actually changed my life. It's changed the way I think about my body. It's changed about my idea about sport, about women in sport in general.
First this evening, we start with hockey, as Holcombe men were looking to continue their unbeaten start to the season as they hosted Reading. While at the other end of the table, Sevenoaks were looking for their first win of the campaign. Here's a quick recap of the weekend's results. In the Women's Premier Division, a penalty corner from Grace Balsden for Canterbury wasn't enough as it finished honours even against Slough. Meanwhile, Holcombe continued their unbeaten start to the season with goals from Leah Wilkinson, Alice Wills and Steph Elliott against Clifton Robinsons. While in the Men's Premier Division, Sevenoaks picked up their first point of the season with a 1-1 draw with Brooklands Manchester University. While Holcombe men's team made it 3 wins out of 3, goals from Daniel Webster, Harry Truster and Tom O'Keefe, and a brace from Nick Banderack sent them to the top of the table with a 5-0 win against Reading. Well, to talk more about that Holcombe men's result, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Glen Ayres from Holcombe Hockey Club. First, Glenn, how was that result at the weekend?
Yeah, it was a really good result. Reading are a good team and we just stuck to task and were able to put them away at the end there.
Obviously, an unbeaten start to the season. Got some stats here. 3 games played, 14 goals scored, 1 conceded and 3 wins so far. It's got to be the perfect start to the season. Yeah,
it's kind of a dream start, really. We've just been putting away our chances and we've been defending really well. Like, we've only conceded 1 goal, so yeah, it starts at the back going forward, yeah.
Now, for viewers who obviously might not have followed Holcombe last season, how did you get on last season?
Last season, we had a couple of results that could have gone either way and they kind of went against us, and so we ended up finishing kind of in the middle of the table. It was very tight up top. We were close to the playoffs but didn't quite get there in the end. And
now this season, what are your ambitions for the club?
Absolutely, we're looking to go to playoffs. Yeah, that's the goal, and then looking to kick on and hopefully win.
Now, you've obviously Holcombe women there, we saw they had a win at the weekend. They've also started the season unbeaten.
Yeah.
You ever comparing results between the teams?
There's a bit of banter between the boys and the girls, but we get on pretty well and we always cheering for each other, so we're just looking for what's best for the club.
As a club, obviously, your ambitions, you want to go on, you want to try and win it this season. You've made that perfect start to it. Tell me a little bit about the growth from Holcombe, from that small club back, 20-odd years ago to now, and how far you've come.
Yeah, I mean, as some people in the community will know, Holcombe was down a few divisions in the past, and they've sort of worked their way up. And now we were in EHL last year, which is the European Hockey League, and we've got quite a young team at the moment, so we're really growing from that experience. And I think for the next few years, Holcombe's looking pretty good.
Did you feel that last season you sort of underachieved in the end?
A little bit, like yeah, we were. I mean, you always want to always want to be playing in the playoffs at the business end of the season. So we were a little disappointed with how it ended up, but we knew we had a young team, and going forward that this year we could really kick on.
Now, bringing hockey to Medway, it's been announced. Obviously, Holcombe are hosting the Euro Hockey, the women's Euro Hockey Championships. How exciting is that for the club?
Oh, it's amazing. Like it's so great for Medway as well. As an area, and for Chatham to have international quality players come and play against the locals. It's like a dream come true, really.
Very quickly, coming to watch hockey, it's been hard to bring in the crowd sometimes.
Yeah.
How hard has that been? Very quickly.
you know, weather dependent at times, but it's been pretty good. Like the crowds just grow and grow, and as the results get better and better, it's awesome to see people turn out.
Thank you very much for coming in. Hopefully we can get more people down to watch Holcombe play this season. Glenn, thank you very much. Football now in Kent's dugouts looked very different with the departure of Chris Kinnear from Dover on Friday. It was first match day since 2005 without the former Whites boss, ex-Dartford boss Tony Berman or Jay Saunders in the technical area. Meanwhile, Gillingham were looking to end a run of 10 games without a win as they took on top of the table Portsmouth. Here's the best of the action. We start at Crabble after an eventful week saw the departure of Dover boss Chris Kinnear on Friday after just one win in 14 games in the league this season. In came caretaker boss Jake LaBelle for his first game in charge. But he didn't have much fixture fortune as he was up against top of the table Salford. And it's of no surprise then that they've lost just 2 of their opening 14 games when Adam Rooney managed to open the scoring on 18 minutes, poking it agonisingly under Mitch Walker. The front man then got his second just 2 minutes later with this diving headed effort finding the bottom corner. Dover did get one back just after the interval though. Bedesenti Gomes found himself completely unmarked at the back post and managed to volley home. But Salford's number 9 got number 3 of the afternoon on 56 minutes. When the Whites failed to clear their lines from a corner, Rooney eventually managed to poke it home to complete his hat-trick. Defender Carl Piergiani added a 4th for the visitors shortly after to make sure they went home with all 3 points. Not a completely surprising result for the Whites, and boss Jake LaBelle says it bids the end to a very difficult week for Dover.
Really difficult circumstances, really tough week, and you know, obviously I didn't want it to end this way, but yeah, it's all good experience for me, and hopefully, you know, I can stay in football and carry on. At times we played some nice stuff and we had some chances and we scored a good goal, but you know, I think we played against the champions of this league today, and at the end of the day they were the better side.
Off to the Gallagher now, and Harry Wheeler's side were looking to build on 3 games without defeat as they took on Bromley. But the visitors came thick and fast out of the blocks, opening the scoring on 11 minutes. This effort from junior Ogedi Ozekwe proving to be the eventual winner as they held out for all 3 points. Maidstone did have a chance to make it level though, with just 8 minutes to go. Ollie Muldoon's strike from a free kick had the keeper beaten, but rattled off the woodwork. A narrow defeat for the Stones, and Harry Wheeler says he takes full responsibility for the defeat.
Probably take a little bit of the for the flak for the first half. I think, you know, maybe we didn't set up well enough. I mean, we stayed with what we've been doing recently, and because it's been working, you know, if you do change it and it doesn't work, you set yourself up in that way. So we stayed trusted with what we'd done, but we should have probably adapted to what they brought, and they'd done their homework, and, you know, first half we were on top. Second half we adjusted and we were definitely the better team second half, and they held on, but, you know, we didn't get anything. Moving
down the leagues, Tunbridge started their campaign with 6 wins in a row, conceding just 1 goal. But after a narrow defeat to Bishop Stortford last weekend, the Angels were looking to get back to winning ways as they hosted Potter's Bar at Longmead. After a cagey 0-0 first half, the Angels came flying out in the second and opened the scoring on 47 minutes. A well-whipped in free kick from Joe Turner was headed back into danger and eventually turned in by skipper Tom Parkinson. But it was clearly an equally good half-time team talk from Scholars boss Adam Lee. This free kick from Keegan Cole found the wall the first time, the crossbar the second, but with Henley beaten between the sticks, it allowed Owen Casey with the easiest of finishes. The Angels found the breakthrough on 72 minutes, Turner beating not 1 but 2 defenders before smashing the ball home. The Angels now sit above the rest with a 4-point gap at the top of the Bostik League, and manager Steve McKim said he was glad to get back to winning ways. Elsewhere in the Bostik League, Margate played out a bore draw with Harlow, but it was back-to-back 4-1 defeats for Folkestone, this time at the hands of Kingstonian. We've already seen defeats for Dover and Maidstone this weekend, but it wasn't much better for Ebbsfleet, with just 1 win in 8 games, as they lost 2-0 at home to Harrogate. In the Bostik South East, there were defeats for Ashford and Sittingbourne, while Faversham were on the wrong end of a 9-goal thriller as they lost 7-2 to Cray Wanderers. Wins for Whitstable and Hythe though, while Sevenoaks played out a 1-1 draw with East Grinstead. Moving up the leagues, and it was a first win in 10 for Steve Lovell's Gillingham as they beat top of the table Portsmouth 2-0, thanks to first half goals from Alex Lacey and a goal of the season contender from Tom Eves. And finally, Dartford and Ramsgate were the only Kent sides in FA Cup action, with them just 2 games away from qualifying with the Football League clubs. But there will be no rags to riches tale from them this year, as they were both on the wrong end of 5-goal thrillers. Well, you'll be able to see that goal from Tommy's in Team Talk top corner after the break. But that's all for the first half of Team Talk. Still to come, we're throwing it back with a classic game of Conkers. And we've paid a visit to the Apex Predators in Rochester to find out more about roller derby. I'll see you in a few minutes.
It sounds cheesy, but it has actually changed my life. It's changed the way I think about my body. It's changed about my idea about sport, about women in sport in general.
All that still to come, but we still have time for your Team Talk teaser. This week, we're asking you, in what year was the first ever game of Conkers played? Find out after the break. Welcome back to the second half of Team Talk. Before the break, we asked you, in what year was the first ever game of Conkers played? The answer was 1848 in the Isle of Wight. Well done to those of you at home who got that one right. Now, it's a game that's been played in Kent for 170 years since that first game, but fewer and fewer children are now playing conkers. In a world of games consoles and social media, can you still have fun with the old school sport, or has it become a playground pastime? I've been investigating. With the weather turning cooler, the leaves turning brown, it must mean that autumn's finally hit Kent. But it also means the return of conker season. The old school game has been played for hundreds of years, with youngsters scouring the woodland ground, trying to find the perfect horse chestnut to take into battle. And the playground pastime has even got a World Championships, attended by up to 5,000 people every year. So how can you be sure you're armed with the right conker?
Right, well, you want one that's reasonably large, but not too large. The larger it is, the weaker the shell, the more you've got to hit, as well your opponent's got to hit. So you want one of reasonably good size, and it's got to be spherical, for the same reason that it's harder to break if it's spherical.
Now, I've taken the advice of Senjin and I've picked out two of my favourite conkers from the bunch. They're not too small and not too big, and they're quite spherical, so they should be good. But I'm a serial winner, so I'm going to have to do a bit of cheating to make sure my conkers are a little bit stronger. I've got a cup of vinegar here and 2 minutes on a timer. I'm going to put them in the vinegar, and after the 2 minutes is up, I'm going to put them in the oven for 30 seconds. And then once they're out of the oven and they've dried off a little, I should have a corker of a conker. So is the classic game of conkers set for a reboot? Some university students would have to concur.
I've never heard of it before, to be honest, but I don't think it will catch on because, you know, like social media and all the new games going on and iPads and all, people don't play the old games we used to play, like hopscotch and, you know, all the other games we used to play as kids.
I would say the last time I saw it get played was probably in primary school. I never played it myself. I was more of a collector rather than a player, but certainly some of my friends definitely enjoyed playing it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of them got hurt often, hitting each other on the knuckles. That was quite a thing.
As for me, I came, I saw, I even cheated. Oh, they both went. I don't know what that means.
I killed them both.
They both come off. We call it a draw. And I still didn't conquer. Joe Caution for KMTV. Now, you're not too old, you're not too unfit, you're perfect. That's the message from Rochester-based Apex Predators as they prepare their launch to launch the latest introduction course on roller derby. The team is on the hunt for new players as it celebrates its 5th successful year of rising through the European ranks. Poppy Jeffrey's been to meet the team.
If you've seen the Drew Barrymore film Whip It, then you've probably already heard of roller derby. It's a sport that's dominated by women, and although having been started in America, it's now a lot closer to home.
Roller derby is a full contact sport played on quad skates. It's great fun. It's a team sport where you score points against blockers who are basically defensive opponents from the other team.
Apex Predators started their competitive journey back in 2013 and have been quickly climbing the ranks, taking on teams from across the country.
I know it sounds cheesy, but it has actually changed my life. It's changed the way I think about my body. It's changed about my idea about sport, about women in sport in general. So yeah, it's done a lot for me personally, for sure.
The members of the Rochester-based club say it's popular with women as it's an incredibly inclusive sport and shows off just how strong women can be.
Lots of women feel like they are not welcome in team sports, and roller derby is founded by women. And although it's primarily women's sport, there are still lots of men involved. We have men on our team, but yeah, it's definitely a feminist sport.
It allows us to be assertive, to work together in a team, to use our bodies in ways that maybe we don't always get to feel strong in a way, rather than, you know, I have a desk job, so I don't always feel as though I'm using my body very actively. So this is one way that I get to do that and be part of a team.
But it's not without its risks.
The roller skating element does bring a new dynamic, definitely. I think when you're playing, you don't really remember that you're on roller skates, which can be a bad thing sometimes, I suppose. But it just gives you a different way of moving. It's one of the aspects that helps you to be able to play simultaneous defence and offence during the game.
We fall down in training, but we're taught how to recover from that. We're taught to fall safely.
With every sport, there's always going to be risks of injury. It's not as violent as it may look.
If you want to have a go, then you can go along to their open day later this month on October the 14th. They say you'll have a really good time. This is Bobby Jeffrey for KMTV in Rochester.
Well, to discuss roller derby in more detail, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Melissa, Carly and Candice from Apex Predators. Melissa, I'll come to you first. It does look quite dangerous there. We've seen some people, it's obviously quite difficult to get injuries. How safe is it?
Very safe. I mean, I've played sports pretty much all my life, and I wouldn't say that there's any more inherent risk in this sport than any other sport. We do take precautions, so you know, when we have new skaters turning up, we go through them with them all the sort of basic safety. Like, you've got to learn to fall. That's the first thing you've got to learn how to do on roller skates, is learn how to fall safely. So if people come along to our open day, that is one of the things we'll cover. We go through it again during the introduction to roller derby course that runs off of that. You can see that we're completely padded up as well. So we've got helmets, we have knee pads, wrist guards, arm shields, elbow pads. But really it's about sort of people training at the right pace for them. We follow the WFTDA rule set as well, so we make sure that people learn incrementally and safely.
Well, we heard from some of the ladies in Poppy's report there, that it's changed their life. Why do women love this sport so much?
I think it's because it's very inclusive. There's a role for everybody in roller derby. You don't have to have even done conventional sport previously. That was me 3 years ago, and now I've learnt from the basics, been taught by an excellent team that, from falling upwards to footwork to gameplay, and there's a lot of adrenaline and a lot of camaraderie as well in roller derby, and I think that those are the main benefits.
Now, reading up on roller derby, I've learned that you use pseudonyms when you're, different names when you're playing. Firstly, tell me all of yours first.
I'm Heisenberg.
Knit one, hurl one.
Pusher fun.
Where does this come from? Why do you use these different names when you're playing?
Not everybody does, actually. I think roller derby has gone through a resurgence, and some people choose to play under their regular civvy names, and some of us choose to play under a pseudonym. For some people, it represents their on-track persona, something that they want to bring out of themselves. Sometimes it's just a pun, because you like a pun.
Now, Candice, we didn't see any sort of balls or any sort of scoring in that. How is roller derby scored exactly?
Okay, so basically you have a jammer and 4 blockers on each team, and when the whistle goes, that jammer has to pass all the members of the other team, come back round, and for every set of hips that jammer passes with their hips, they score a point.
Now, very exciting. The reason we've got you in is because you've got a free open day if people want to get involved this weekend. Firstly, why should people get involved with roller derby?
Just because it's a really good way to be active and meet new people and learn a new skill as well. I get lots of sort of advantages. The perks for me are watching my own progress and my teammates' progress as they do something they've never tried before. So yeah, that's the main benefit, I think. And
very quickly, people who want to get involved, very quickly, how can they get involved this weekend coming?
The website, www.apexpredatorsrd.co.uk, has all the details for the open day.
Brilliant. Melissa, Carly, Candice, thank you ever so much for joining us. That's fantastic. Thank you. Just before we go, let's take a look at some of the best tricks, tackles, tweets during the last week or so. Here's our latest instalment of Team Talk Top Corner, and we kick off with our top 3 plays. At number 3 this week is a tweet from Gillingham defender Alex Lacey after his first half goal helped the Gills go on to beat top of the table Portsmouth. And the Gills celebrated the goal on Twitter with a gif of the defender celebrating with a cowboy hat. In reply, Lacey says he wants a future career as an actor. But we agree with Gills fan Kim Pringle's reply, stick to the day job, Alex. At number 2 this week is Spitfires vice-captain Joe Denley. as he scooped up a triple threat of accolades at the latest PCA Awards. He picked up the most valuable player in the One Day Cup, the T20 Player of the Year, and the PCA Players Player of the Year to cap off a fantastic year for the bowler. And I think he's earned the nickname of White Ball King. Straight out of the top corner this week at number 1 is this goal from Gills striker Tom Eaves. Not only had his team gone 10 without a win, and they're playing against top of the league, he still had the audacity to flick the ball over his head and smash this volley home. And just to rub salt in the wounds, a Pompey fan managed to film the goal from the home end. Let's watch another angle. And I think it's safe to say that Gillingham can close their goal of the season competition already. Well, that's all from us this evening on Team Talk. Next week, we'll be looking ahead to the Artistic Gymnastics World Championships as we chat to Maidstone gymnast James Hall, who's hoping to bring back some silverware. In the meantime, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Instagram and Snapchat using the handle KM_Team Talk. We'll be back next week with all the latest sports stories from across Kent. But make sure you enjoy the rest of your week. That's all from me. Goodbye.
Dino Plumbing and Heating Kent, proud sponsor of Team Talk.